everyone. Welcome back to Coding from Null. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for. How do we deploy this app out to the internet so people can actually see it? Today, we're going to be covering exactly how we can do that using a tool called Heroku. And next week, we'll dig into a little bit different sort of style as we then use Netlify to do it. So let's go ahead and jump in and see what Heroku's all about and how we deploy this thing.
All right, so let's start looking at how we can get our app deployed and out on the web. We're going to be using a tool called Heroku. It makes it really quick and easy for us to get this thing out. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and click sign up for a free account. Go ahead and fill out all the information that you need to sign up for your free account. I'm just going to go ahead and log into mine real quick. And what you're going to want to do is hit new, hit create new app. You're going to want to give it a name. This needs to be unique across all of Heroku. So coming soon might not be available, but you can name it whatever you want and it'll tell you if it's available. Go ahead and hit create app. Now, last week, remember we pushed all our code out to GitHub. And the reason is because, well, for one, it's really good for version control. I mean, GitHub's just great for that, but it also makes it really easy for us to deploy straight from there. So I do believe the repository name was the same. Go ahead and search. So this is the repo that I'm using on GitHub to do my deployments. I'm going to enable automatic deploys. And we'll see this here in a second, but anytime I push changes to the master branch of that repository, Heroku is going to trigger a rebuild of the application, then redeploy the new version of our application, which makes it really nice. We don't got to come in here and do anything. We just push the branch and it'll automatically rebuild the application for us. So the first thing we want to do is we'll go ahead and just deploy the branch. And this is going to really nicely, Heroku is going to detect, you can see here, it's detecting that we are running a node application, which we are technically, because it sees our package.json in the root directory of our app. It sees there's an npm start in there, and so it just runs npm start, which is just starting the server, our node server. So we'll dig into this in a second, but the issue is well, we're running both a server and we have a React application on the front end. So how do we do that, right? So if we click view, you'll see this application error pop up, because there's nothing for it to view, right? All we did was start the server. We didn't do anything with our front-end React application. So there's a couple of changes that we need to make in our code that will allow us to, in one go, deploy the server and deploy the front-end React application. Before we do that, there's one thing that we need to do here. Now, remember when we set up MailChimp, we had some environmental variables that we set, right? We had, I believe it was like MailChimp API key, and then we had a list ID, like what list we're adding the members to. And we made sure that we git ignored that file. We didn't push that up to our repository. So we need a way to tell this application on Heroku what those environmental variables are. And you do that here in the reveal config bars. So, and it's the same idea, just key value pairs. So you type in whatever, I think it was all caps MailChimp. MailChimp _ API key, right? And then you just put the value here. I'm not going to do that here real quick because I don't want to expose my API key, but you would put your MailChimp API key and your list ID, and then you would just hit add. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that here real quick, and we'll be right back. All right, so we've gone ahead and added our configuration variables or environmental variables, whatever you want to call them, right? We've added those in there, so now it knows the MailChimp API key and the list ID. But now we need to go into our application and make a couple of quick changes so that Heroku knows that it also needs to deploy the React side of our application. So if we go into our application here, let's look at, so yeah, actually we're in the right spot. So in our package.json here for the server, we've just got this npm start, right? How do we tell Heroku that, hey, we've also got inside this client directory, we've got another package.json, and I also want you to run this npm run build script from this one. What's awesome about Heroku is it's got this nice post build script that we can run, and it is just Heroku post build. And we can treat this just like we would treat it on the command line, right? So right now, like Heroku is going to see our package.json. So it's going to be in the root directory of our application. And it's going to say, okay, npm start, I'm going to run that. And then what's going to hit next is it's going to go, okay, after I've done that, are there any Heroku post build scripts I need to run? And so from the root directory, how do we get in the client? Well, just like we would from the command line, we'd type in cd client. And so it's going to change directories into the client. And then we'll say and npm install. So it's going to, remember, we're also, along with the variables that we're not pushing up to Git, we're also not pushing up all the node modules or all the packages that we're using in our React application. But our React application still needs access to those, right? So before it runs npm build, we'll do an npm install to reinstall all those packages on in Heroku. That way we're not pushing up all those node modules into our repository, which makes for huge files that are really unnecessary. So, and then so after it installs all our packages, we'll say npm run build. And so that will then run the build script in our client directory. There's one other thing that we need to do. On the server, we need to actually serve up those static files after React gets built. So Heroku is going to go in and it's going to build our React application, and it's going to stuff everything into this build folder. But we also need to tell our Express application here that we want to serve the files from that build folder. So here I'll just make a little comment, serve static files from React app. Okay, and we'll just say app.use, and we'll say express.static and path.join underscore directory name. And so this is just giving us a path name. So whatever the directory name is, because Heroku is going to name it something weird like Heroku dot whatever it names it. And from that directory name, we want to then go into client and then into build to serve up those static files. So let's go ahead and give that a save. So now we want to push those changes into our remote repository on GitHub. Now, last week what we did is we were doing things more or less the right way, right? We were checking out a branch from master, we were working on that branch, and then we were pushing up that branch and then merging it back into master. We're not going to go through all that this time around. We're going to do it kind of quick and dirty. I would not recommend doing this in production applications, but we are just going to just push this sucker straight to master because I like to live on the edge. So we're going to just type in our commit message here. So add Heroku post build and express static serve. Go ahead and commit that to our local repository, and then we want to open up our terminal here, and we'll just say git push origin master. And see, it's just going from the master branch of our local repository straight into the master branch of our remote repository. So now let's go ahead and go back into Heroku. And so let's go into overview here, and you'll see build in progress. So we push those changes to our GitHub repository, and then GitHub shot something over to Heroku saying, hey, there was a new push to this master branch, and then Heroku now knows that there's changes and is building our application. And that's all done with just a simple click of enabling automatic deploys, which makes things really nice and really easy. So whenever there's a change there, Heroku knows, it'll build our application for us. So this is going to take it a minute. Let's go ahead and we can see our, maybe from here, view build progress. And so we can see all the things that it's doing, right? It's node.js app detected. And then see, here's our Heroku post build, right? So it's going into the client directory, installing those packages, and then doing npm run build. And all of the fun stuff that we did. Now build succeeded, and now it looks like our app is live. So let's go ahead and see what we're working with now. So now instead of our application error that we were getting before, we have our actual app up and running. Pretty cool, and all out on the web now, and for free with Heroku. Of course, that there is some stipulations. That Heroku is one of those ones that when you visit the site, like I've visited the site, so it's cached, so it's a little bit snappy. But if you haven't visited the site for a while, you load it, it kind of has this thing where it like spins up a little bit, so it kind of takes it a little while to spin up. So to avoid that, what we'll be doing is next week we'll be looking into Netlify and how we can use something called serverless functions to do some of the work that we're doing in the server as a serverless function. Let's go ahead and I just want to see if this works as well. We'll say test@test.com, submit. We get our error message. Cool. It's all tied up and working. We'll go ahead and go jason@gmail.com. You're already under our mailing list, so everything is working nice and clean, and it's all live on the web now. So we've successfully deployed our application. and we will do it all over again next week. So come back next week to see how we do this on Netlify, and I will see you all then.